Ma'am, how many times do I have to tell you? The sales associate snapped loudly, her voice cutting through the boutique. That section is not for you. She stepped closer, lowering her voice just enough to sting. Get away from the display. You don't belong over there. The woman looked up, startled. I was only hoping to see the emerald necklace in the case, she said softly. The associate laughed, sharp and cruel. See it? You can't even afford to stand near it. That necklace is 6 figures. People like you don't ask about pieces like that. A few nearby customers turned to watch. Someone scoffed. Another whispered, "Unbelievable." The associate folded her arms and raised her voice again. I said move. This store is for serious buyers, not people who wander in off the street. The woman took a slow step back, her face tightening with embarrassment. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I don't usually come into places like this. The associate rolled her eyes. Then today shouldn't be your first time. Try somewhere that fits you. A few stifled laughs followed. The woman nodded once, humiliated, clutching her old leather handbag a little tighter. But what no one in that luxury jewelry store realized was that within minutes, the room would fall completely silent. This happened in a high-end jewelry boutique in San Francisco. The woman's name was Margaret Collins, 71 years old. She wore a simple beige coat, carried an old leather handbag, and stood with the posture of someone who had learned long ago not to take up too much space. For decades, Margaret had lived quietly. She raised 2 children alone, worked night shifts, saved carefully, and never once stepped into a place like this until today. Today marked 40 years since she'd opened her very first workshop. The associate tapped her nails impatiently. Ma'am, if you're just browsing, please step aside. You're blocking the view. Margaret took a small step back. I'm sorry, she said. I don't usually come into places like this. I just wanted to see the craftsmanship. Before the associate could respond, a sharply dressed couple walked in. Instantly, the tone changed. Welcome, the associate smiled brightly. Please, right this way. She shot Margaret a look as she passed. See? That's how real buyers shop. Margaret didn't argue. She simply reached into her bag and checked her phone. Moments later, the back door opened. A man in his late 50s stepped out, calm, well-dressed, observant. His eyes scanned the room, then landed on Margaret. He stopped. Mrs. Collins? He said, surprised. The associate turned, confused. Yes, Margaret answered. The man walked toward her, extending his hand. It's an honor. I didn't know you were visiting today. The associate's smile faltered. Margaret shook his hand gently. I was in the area. I wanted to see if the store still remembered why it exists. The man turned to the associate. Do you know who this is? The associate hesitated. She was just, this, the man said, voice steady, is the woman who designed the original blueprint for this brand. The store went completely still. Margaret spoke quietly. I started this company in a garage, she said, with borrowed tools and a belief that craftsmanship mattered more than appearance. She looked around the room. I sold my first necklace to a woman who was told she didn't belong in a jewelry store. Her eyes returned to the associate. Today, I walked in dressed exactly how I live, and I was treated exactly how I once was. The associate's face drained of color. I didn't know. Margaret shook her head. You didn't need to. She turned to the man. Please take care of this. The man nodded. For dismissing a customer based on appearance, he said firmly, and violating our core values, you're terminated, effective immediately. The associate stood frozen. Margaret picked up her bag. As she walked toward the door, she paused. Oh, she added softly. The emerald necklace? She smiled. It's beautiful. I designed it myself, and with that, she stepped back into the street, unchanged, unbothered, and completely at peace. Because respect should never depend on how someone looks, only on how they treat others. Do you believe true class shows before wealth does? Leave a heart if you agree.